America, land of the free, home of the brave. Free? I'm not sure what it means anymore. You know, I served this country for 5 years, and every day it seems like more and more of that Constitution and those freedoms that so many of us serve for are being chipped away. And not enough people are standing up and doing anything about it. Maybe it's because they don't feel that they can do anything about it. Maybe they feel like they're alone. Maybe they just don't care. I'm not really sure. We see the riots in Hong Kong and the protest we'll call them protest, in Hong Kong and Honduras, the Gilets Jaunes protest in France, and all of these places where they know that they have a tyrannical government that they're fighting against. While here in the States, the land of the free, home of the brave, are busy fighting with each other. We have Antifa and the Proud Boys dressing up in little shirts and masks just to make what point? Nobody really knows. They are a distraction. They aren't standing up for anything. They are both distractions. And it amazes me that so many people are falling into this. Maybe it's due to a lack of education. Maybe you just don't really realize what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you how both the R and the D both are paid, supported, and run by the same organizations. We have a sitting Congress that just has circus day, all day, every day. The mainstream media is complicit, if not just absolutely part of the problem. They're definitely not a solution to anything. And at this point, I honestly don't believe that there is a solution in DC. But I'm going to let you make that decision on your own when we go through all of this information to show you that our government does not work for we the people at all. I have 40 years, at least 40 years of data that proves this point. And so my question to you before we start is, are you going to continue to allow this to happen? Sit around and do nothing? Or are you going to do something about it? Our Congress is dual citizens to a foreign government. And that seems to be okay with most people. That is pure insanity. But let's go ahead and look at the actual numbers, the actual research, to show you what I think you all really already know, so that we can start moving forward, uniting together, put aside our differences, because our silly little differences, if you like the president, if you don't like the president, if you like the Republicans, whatever, you put it all aside, because we, the people, have a lot more in common with each other than anyone in DC.
For the last few years, I've had this sense that everything I learned as a kid about how America's government works is completely wrong. But I had no idea how bad things actually were until I saw this one graph. Researchers at Princeton University looked at more than 20 years worth of data to answer a pretty simple question. Does the government represent the people? Now, this is what they found. This axis here represents public support for any given idea. On the left, at 0%, are ideas that not a single American wants. On the right, at 100%, are ideas that everyone supports. This axis represents the likelihood of Congress passing a law that reflects any of these ideas, from a 0 to a 100% chance. On this graph, an ideal republic would look like this. If 50% of the public supports an idea, there's a 50% chance of it becoming law. If 80% of us support something, there's an 80% chance. You get the idea. Now, most Americans would probably agree that, with a few exceptions, we should be as close to this ideal as possible. Unfortunately, the way America actually works doesn't even come close. Take an idea that nobody supports, literally nobody, and it has about a 30% chance of becoming federal law. Now, take an incredibly popular idea, the most popular idea this country has ever seen, and there's also about a 30% chance of it becoming law. This means that the number of American voters for or against any idea has no impact on the likelihood that Congress will make it law. Put another way, and I'm just going to quote the Princeton study directly here, the preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy. So if you've ever felt like your opinion doesn't matter and that the government doesn't really care what you think, well, you're right. But there's a catch. This flat line only accounts for the bottom 90% of income earners in America. Economic elites, business interests, people who can afford lobbyists, they get their own line. Look at how much closer their line is to the ideal. When they want something, the government is much more likely to do it. And when they don't, they have the power to completely block it from happening, no matter how much the rest of the country supports it. They get what they want, and guess who ends up paying for it? We pay for it with the most expensive healthcare in the world. We pay for it with a tax code that's a complete mess. We pay for it with internet that's slower and more expensive, with wasteful spending, a floundering education system, a catastrophic drug war, and 1 in 5 American children born into poverty. Almost every major issue we face as a nation can be traced back to this graph. How does this happen? Well, just follow the money. Right now, it's perfectly legal to buy political influence in America. Here's how it works. Let's say a big bank wants a law that would force taxpayers to bail them out again if they repeat the exact same reckless behavior that crashed the global economy in 2008. Not exactly the most popular idea with the public, and Congress knows that. That should be the end of it. But that's where the money comes in. It's perfectly legal for our bank to hire a team of lobbyists whose entire job is to make sure that the government gives the bank what it wants. Then, those lobbyists can track down members of Congress who regulate banks and help raise a ton of money for their re-election campaigns. It's perfectly legal for those lobbyists to offer those same politicians million-dollar jobs at their lobbying firm. Then, those lobbyists can literally write the language of this new bailout law themselves and hand it off to the politician they just buttered up with campaign money and lucrative job offers. And it's perfectly legal for those politicians to take the lobbyist-written language and sneak it through Congress at the last second. So now you've got a law that greatly benefits the banks, and the whole process can start over. This is how a bill becomes a law. A special interest hires some lobbyists, those lobbyists collect campaign contributions, offer jobs, and then write the laws that Congress then passes to help those same special interests. This happens every day on every single issue with politicians of both parties. In the last 5 years alone, the 200 most politically active companies in the United States spent $5.8 billion influencing your government. Those same companies got $4.4 trillion in taxpayer support. And that's trillion, with a T. And that's just the top 200 companies. Never mind every other special interest, every union, every trade association, and every billionaire. Every single one of them can use their money to buy political influence. You know, there's this idea out there that this only became a problem after the Supreme Court's Citizens United decision in 2010. But the data goes back almost 40 years, and the results are clear. Corruption is legal in America. And as long as it is, anyone who can spend money to buy political influence will. The solution here isn't rocket science. Make corruption illegal. We already know Congress won't do it. I mean, one look at this chart will tell you that. What we need is a plan that lets us go around Congress and do what the American people do best: fix this mess ourselves.
Both parties want you to believe that there's only two options. They want you to believe that if you vote third party, or if you don't vote, then that's a wasted vote that goes to the other side. They have pounded this into our heads since I could ever remember. Because they know that if they have one or the other, they can still control us. Honestly, again, like I said, I feel that the only solution or thing that we can do to help get us out of what we are in right now is in our states, in our local communities, and DC is essentially hopeless right now. They honestly are, because it is so corrupt. And all of these delusional people that believe that there's some kind of plan, while our First, Second, and Fourth Amendments are being taken away from us as we speak, you are delusional. I don't mean that in a condescending, mean way. I tried for over a year to explain to you how you were being led astray. You were following a psychological operation. I took all those videos down because I realized it was almost useless. People have become so brainwashed that they're almost unrecognizable. You can still find them on my BitChute, which is linked in my pinned comment. But the only thing that we need to worry about right now is our local and state governments, and deciding what we're going to do. I feel the only thing is to unite. Us fighting against each other makes absolutely zero logical sense. It makes no sense. Yet they want you to believe that. They want you to believe that you're fighting the Nazis or the white supremacists or whatever boogeyman there is that day. Could be ISIS, could be anybody. They want you to believe that, as long as your eyes are not on them. And then they win. They continue to win. Our electoral system has been essentially corrupted. People still don't understand how it works. Our electoral college was never meant to be chosen by the R or the D. Never. It was meant, and it used to be, the people were chosen prior to the election. And once the election occurred, those people would then choose who they would give their electoral vote to, whether it be the R, the D, or someone else, even someone that didn't even run. The scary thing is, people more now than ever are really believing, well, oh my gosh, if we don't vote for the current administration, then we're going to be dealt with, we'll have to deal with somebody on the left. Really? The research says otherwise. It says it doesn't matter. They will continue doing what they're doing. Whoever thought that a Republican conservative president would be the one taking our Second Amendment away, or our First Amendment away, and now our Fourth? Well, I guess technically the Patriot Act was written under a Republican also. but we don't think about those things. So I don't know what else to tell you guys. You have the information. I will put the links that you can look at the research yourself. I'll put it in the pinned comments. And we need to do something to save our country. This whole division nonsense is getting us nowhere. And I will bet that this video will be absolutely demonetized because they don't want you to know about this left. They want you to be left versus right. So if you could support my channel, again, links will be in the pinned comments. You have a wonderful day. Like, share, and subscribe. Bye, guys.